Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh, welcoming you to an all new World of Warships gameplay today on our channel. In this episode we're going to be featuring our Tier 2 Japanese destroyer, known as the Umikaze. This is a match on the map Islands, a domination game type, a Tier 3 match, and we're sailing alone. Now this is a rather interesting gameplay for myself, seeing as it is going to represent a complete change of playstyle. Now, as some of you may be aware, I'm a destroyer player. I like my destroyers more than any other class of ship. And when we look at nations, I prefer American destroyers above all else, just because of their mixture of capabilities in terms of their main cannon armament, their torpedo tubes, their anti-air capabilities, their overall manoeuvrability, speed and concealment. So switching over to a Japanese destroyer, which prides itself on its ability to hit enemy ships stealthily with its torpedoes rather than its guns, is a bit of a change of nature. And as you're going to see, I will try to be a little bit stealthy, but primal instincts are going to kick in and I'm going to go back to the ways of old as the game develops. But let's put some figures around this. The Umikaze, when fully upgraded, has a torpedo range of 8 kilometers. It can fire its torpedoes every 24 seconds, or with the torpedo armament reload expertise skill at level 2 in the commander skill tree, this reload can drop to 21.6 seconds, and you're going to see that here. As for its guns, it can fire its guns every 10 seconds, that is the reload time, so you can see the emphasis already drifting towards the torpedo tubes. And what's more, your ability to be seen at sea is 5.6 kilometers, which means you have a range of 2.4 kilometers between your maximum torpedo range and the point at which you are spotted by a sea to get off your torpedoes. And your torpedoes are in a 2-set configuration, 2 tubes to each set. So this means you can get a lot of torpedoes down very quickly in the space of a minute and wreak absolute havoc at distance on enemy ships that don't even know you're there until they see the torpedoes coming. And our intention is to go after one of the 3 enemy South Carolinas and do as much damage to each South Carolina in turn. But unfortunately, before we can get to that South Carolina, we've got to go for an enemy Samson. Now in a straight up fight, we get ripped apart by the Samson, and even more so now that they have a comrade in arms, being a Stealthy coming off to our starboard side. But fortunately for us, as we put 2 shots in on the Samson and do an incredible amount of damage with those 2 shots, emphasising the power of high explosive in Japanese ships in general, as I've been informed to believe, we notice that the 2 enemy destroyers here are focusing more on our friendly South Carolina behind us, so the Samson is just going to sail right into a torpedo. Very fortunate for us, that means the Samson's game is now reduced to a measly 3,000 health as their original 8,000 plus health, and it is pretty much over for them when they get hit by a South Carolina or any other ships heading up this way on our team. This means we can start to fire off some torpedoes on the enemy South Carolina, and let's head up to the northeastern side of the map from where they've spawned. Now at this point we begin to look at the minimap and realise that the enemy Star of the Void is coming up behind us. Now we're not sure whether they're trying to counter us or get a flank on our friendly South Carolina, who is having a bad day right now, being attacked by a lot of torpedoes from those 2 enemy destroyers. So we fire down some torpedoes, then look down the gunner sight, and we notice that the Star of the Void is focusing on the South Carolina so much that we can get a cheeky burst off, hit with 2 shells, and knock out their engine. And at this point, with the Star of the Void now drifting hopefully towards the friendly side of the map, i.e. for our team, we can head after the South Carolina and begin to torp wall them. But we are way too close here to do this stealthily. Now we deploy our smoke screen at this point to try and get off our torpedoes and then use the smoke screen to conceal us. But as you're going to see, the enemy South Carolina is having none of this, as they open fire with their forward facing guns here, hitting us with a high explosive shell of 305mm in calibre and doing a good amount of damage. So you know what? Screw this. We're going to let the primal instincts kick in and we're going to get as close as possible and show them what our torpedoes look like at a range of 1.5 kilometers, if not less. Here we go. So we fire off our first 4 here, and we're going to use our speed boost and our overall manoeuvrability on our rudder shift in order to make sure that the South Carolina's main guns cannot get a lead on us. All 4 torpedoes go in, doing just over 20,000 damage and causing 2 floods. That South Carolina is dead in the water. So we put in some more shots towards their rear facing turrets here, and we're getting nice and close on their starboard side, off to our port side, and finish them off with 2 more torpedoes. Our first kill. And another flood caused, interestingly. 3 floods on 1 enemy ship. Now at this point we're going to make our way into the very northeastern tip of the map, or at least for a little while. We can see that the second of the enemy South Carolinas is coming back this way, potentially to counter us and our teammates up in the northern side of the map, and also we have to consider that the enemy Umikaze, 1 of 2, is making their way up this way to try and pursue us, or at least we would expect, and fire off some torpedoes perhaps at our friendly wicks and friendly Chikuma. So the idea here is we're going to head into that northeastern corner and use our speed boost to pull some distance, as we have had the initiative to get away from them as they've come around the island that they had to circumvent in order to be able to pursue us, potentially. At the same time, we're just going to keep throwing torpedoes towards the enemy South Carolina here and make their day an absolute misery. Reason being, with our reload speed, as you can see, we've already got 8 torpedoes making their way well in range of the South Carolina, and within 5 seconds we're going to have another 4 going. And the South Carolina, I believe, is going to start taking some hits at this point. There we go, number 1, causing another flood. We fire off another set. There goes number 2, causing flood number 2 on that South Carolina. And the Umikaze at this point is having to commit to a straight-on, gun-to-gun engagement against our friendly wicks. And it is very likely the wicks is going to win, as we can see. Concentrating back on the South Carolina. Another torpedo is about to go in. Doing a little bit more damage. And we're just going to keep sending the torpedoes over, because now the South Carolina has had to turn broadside to us, but turn away from our friendly Chikuma and our friendly wicks. They are caught between 2 sets of ships here, and this is wonderful in reflection, being able to literally sit in the vicinity of an enemy battleship, knowing that they cannot see you and have to just react to the torpedoes that keep raining down on them. And at the same time, they've got to also deal with a threat on another side of their ship, i.e. off to their aft. And it just means that essentially we can harass them with torpedoes and either pick up the kill or allow our teammates to easily pick up the kill in the South Carolina, who is probably panicking right now at the sheer amount of fire coming their way from 2 flanks. We reload again and put some more torpedoes out, reversing off of the map border rather than skating along it. And we're going to see that 2 more torpedoes are going to go in. Another flood caused. We fire off even some more torpedoes, and we also pick up a high caliber medal at this point for the amount of damage we've done, with the flooding kicking in on the South Carolina and draining away their health. And we are hoping that we're going to finish them off with one of our torpedoes launched already. And we can see that one's going to do it. Go on, girl, you can do it. Sinker. And there we go, kill number 2. Now at this point, the game is in a 3v2 situation. Our team has 3 ships, the enemy team have 2. It is myself, a friendly Wix, and a friendly Chikuma. Meanwhile on the enemy team, there is a single Umikaze, not the same one as before, it is a completely separate one on a much higher amount of health as you're going to see, and an enemy St. Louis. Now going head to head with the enemy Umikaze, as we're going to see they are practically on full health, is too dangerous when we have a little bit less health than them, because we could go head to head and we'll practically eliminate each other with our guns and our torpedoes. And with the St. Louis, that is suicide if we try to get close, as they will be able to rip us apart with their armament if they are not distracted by a friendly. Unfortunately, our friendly Chikuma has gone too far forward and has left myself and the Wicks behind. Alternatively, you could say that the Wicks and I have operated too far away from our leading ships, and as a result we are not doing our role of supporting our cruisers, or indeed our leading ships, in winning the game. And with only 1 cap point available, we are going to make our way towards B. 1 cap point available for the enemy team to capture, 2 available for us to capture B and C, whereby we have A. Now we fire off a wall of torpedoes here between the 2 islands that are towards the northeastern side of B. We know our Chikuma is too far away, and by the time they've turned into these torpedoes, if they did so, the torpedoes would not be hitting them, or most likely not be hitting them. So as a result, we are using these torpedoes to create some space for us. And one thing you do have to be wary of when firing torpedoes off at long range, i.e. 8 kilometers here, is that sometimes friendly ships can drift in the way of the torpedoes. I'm very fortunate not to have sunk any friendly ships or even hit enemy ships, friendly ships I should say, with torpedoes yet. But it's probably going to happen in the near future, so just a warning in advance. And we're trying to counter the potential directions in which the enemy Umikaze can go, as our Chikuma is pretty much knocking on death's door right now, going head to head with the St. Louis, and it's just something they're not going to be able to pull off. We're going to fire 1 final set of torpedoes south down towards C to make sure that the enemy Umikaze cannot creep up south of us, and we're then going to make our way onto B to try and capture it. Now we are taking our time in our approach, because we know the St. Louis, if they manage to see us and turn their guns towards us, will rip us to pieces, so we're going to take the long way round. It is going to cost us our Chikuma, but the Chikuma has overextended from our perspective, and we need to make sure this is a 2v2 engagement, not a 2 versus 1, as once the Chikuma is dead, it is just myself and a Wix having to take on 1 enemy destroyer and 1 enemy cruiser, or at least a cruiser as labelled in game. We're making our way around another island, then heading a little bit further south, and then we'll tap ourselves onto B. And the reason we are going to go onto B is to turn the enemy ships around. They are both heading away now that they have sunk the Chikuma, and they were heading away originally. But the important thing here is that we're on the cap, and this means that the enemy team will think that they know we're just sitting on the cap and doing nothing. And this is a very good way to change the way people think in game, whereby we're now on B, and this means that the St. Louis and the Umikaze, if they want to prevent us from capping, will have to react and turn around, as we are using the islands in the middle of the map to cover our approach. Putting a bit of cap pressure on at the same time, our friendly wicks is putting shots into the St. Louis. This is working in our favour because the enemy team has to make a decision. Do they try and shoot the wicks to pieces at long range, and that means that we're very likely to capture B, or do they rush back onto B and at the same time try to fight on two fronts, i.e. us and the wicks? The Umikaze at this point comes charging onto B to try and prevent the cap, and the St. Louis is turning around to head back into B. We fire down our first ward torpedoes. Remember, these are aimed for the Umikaze, but the St. Louis is turning back onto B. And by the time the Umikaze spots us via proxy spotting at 2 kilometers around the landmass, we've got another set of torpedoes ready, and we're going to fire these in quite a spread here, sending one towards where the Umikaze is predicted to go and one the complete opposite way. To make sure the Umikaze cannot escape, we throw in some high explosive rounds here, we take out the St. Louis with the first set of torpedoes, and then our second set go right in on the Umikaze and finish them off. Lovely ending. Now let's go and take a look at the post-game stats. Quite the ending, no? But with that victory we picked up 178,193 silver credits, 2,237 XP, 112 free XP, and 3 awards. The first being a devastating strike award on the enemy Umikaze right at the end there, for destroying an enemy ship with a single artillery salvo, torpedo salvo, or aircraft by causing damage to over 50% of the destroyed ship's normal HP. The second was a high caliber award for damaging at least 4 enemy ships, with the damage caused exceeding 30% of the total HP of all the ships in the enemy team. And finally we picked up a double strike award for destroying 2 enemy ships, whereby the second target must be destroyed within 10 seconds after the first one, and that was obtained right at the end there with a double kill on the St. Louis and then the Umikaze. In terms of our battle performance ribbons, we picked up 10 target hits, 17 torpedo hits, 2 incapacitations, 4 ships destroyed, and 10 floods caused, and we did a grand total damage amount of 88,727. Looking at our performance compared to the rest of our team, we can see that we came first in terms of base experience earned, picking up 1,491, 475 more than second place on our team. But we must emphasise here that the word team doesn't really apply to our ship, or at least the way in which we use the Umikaze today, because we went off by ourselves throughout the course of the game and acted as an independent destroyer, trying to cause as much harassment and damage to the enemy flotilla, in particular to 2 of the 3 enemy battleships, and we did so quite well. I mean that all of the experience we earned was built up through doing damage, rather than trying to be a team player and play the objective of the 3 capture points in the domination game type. Whereas our teammates most likely had greater tendencies to lean towards more of the centre of the map, it would seem, by looking at the configuration of friendly ships over the course of the game on the minimap and try to contest the capture points, defending them and trying to capture them. So looking at our performance in greater detail, we can see that we hit a total of 6 enemy ships, 4 of which we destroyed and 2 others damaged. We dealt a grand total of 88,727 HP of damage, which can be broken down as follows. 10 of our main battery shells, all high explosive, hit their mark, dealing 3,883 damage, emphasising the power of high explosive shells within Japanese destroyers, and this can be extended to Japanese ships in general, if I remember correctly. As for our torpedoes, they did the main amount of our damage, with 17 hitting and striking for 76,157 damage, and the rest of our damage was made up of flooding, 10 floods doing a grand total of 8,687 damage. Not too much, as most of the time when we flooded enemy ships, it was very likely that they were able to use their damage repair parties in order to get rid of the floods, and subsequent torpedoes either finished the ship off, or alternatively did not cause enough flooding in order to be able to make this amount of flooding damage extend beyond 10,000. As for the damage we received, we took a number of artillery shells, all high explosive, 16 of them, dealing 3,762 damage to our ship, but we walked away with well over half of our health in the end. And finally, coming on to our credits and XP earned, we can see that we earned a total of a premium account of 173,874 silver credits and 2,237 experience, giving us another skill point for our commander. To conclude, hopefully today we have demonstrated the potency of the Umikaze and the trend it is likely to set for the rest of the Japanese destroyer line, whereby this is a ship which can operate independently of your team's main flotilla, being able to break through and then operate behind enemy lines in order to cause mass harassment and damage to the enemy heavy ships, i.e. those which are slower and less manoeuvrable, operating at longer distances with their larger range guns. These ships being the battleships and the heavy cruisers, so here today the South Carolinas and the St. Louis. I must apologise that at points I decided to let my ways of old with American and Russian destroyers kick in, especially with regards to the first South Carolina kill and the double kill at the end. But at the same time we must consider that sometimes it is always nice to mix things up, and remember that as well as the torpedoes which you have on the ship, you do also have some guns which can do some damage when implementing high explosive. Plus, it was nice to see how we were able to use our concealment range in order to set up the situation whereby we could pick up that double kill at the end, as well as our fever for getting in close and using our guns and torpedoes. And so I've been TX141, and if you've enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment and subscribe for future World of Warships videos on my channel. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and fair seas.